simulation of myself. How do I identify myself? How do I recognize who I am? How do I recognize what I do? How do I recognize what I'm going into? How do I recognize mass and volume? Everything through E equals mc squared. Everything has no beginning, but has a beginning itself. How we modify these things is how we tell stories of ourselves. For example, you see this as a coin. Just a plain old coin. You know, doesn't look like much from this end or any angle that I see in positions. But as soon as I start turning this, everything starts to change. Everything starts, and then I do it this way. And I go this way. And then I do this. So all I'm doing is just creating a story, right? But I'm just observing it. If I'm just observing, I'm seeing everything what it is. You're seeing everything what it isn't, because that's all you see. Observation, scanning. But to get from this point to this point is through pi. So it's really interesting how you look at things in set positional levels. Not just seeing on a flat surface, but seeing on 4 lines of flat surface all at once. How you direct lines of the line, signals, location, system, all through set position of its operation. To understand how to identify these things. Oh, exactly. There it is right there. See? There's its size. Scanning. Right? See it? It's looking at you, right? See the eyes? It's like Knight Rider. Right? Everything has its own eyes, guys. It's looking at you as you're looking. Not looking back, you're looking towards. Not looking forward, not looking backwards, looking at each other. Because you're always inside the system. So as we look at the observation, we look at the pi. As we look at the observation, we look at the pi. As we look at the observation, we look at the pi. So you have to understand all this is all identified of what you're not identifying. Is all you see is this. Now to see the massive volume through E equals mc, or anything through square root, or anything through triangulation, or anything through pi, is true to understand how to see it from this angle to this angle. Now you see the intelligence. But to get there is all through dimensional space and time. Okay? So how this is all set up, you have to truly understand, how do I get from here to here? Well, I don't need to go from here to here. All I need to understand is I've already gone from here to here. All I have to identify is how I got from here to here, back to here, which is 0. Now, once you understand that, direct and redirect becomes back and center of operation. So how we look at things is all different angles all at once. So when we understand how to go through 7 plasmesium walls, 7 plasmesium spaces, 70 plasmesium times, 70 times operation lines of sequence, 7 location systems, 7 operation line set locations to its sim, 7 line communicates to its polarities, 7 line communicates to its alignments of its planetary system, now you see the intelligence. Now you would think that would be easy, because it is, because you've already done it. If I spin the cycles, you can see the light traction coming in line positions. Everything travels on its own system. Identifying these things always has its purpose in travel. Bringing it up close, you can see the map and system lines of travel. So when you're looking at things and you're just observing things, you're seeing exactly how it's seeing you. So you're by yourself, it's by itself, but we're all together synced in all lines of the simulation of thyself. It's knowing thyself of what this is, and thyself is the simulation of its system. So when you turn it in that position, you can see it. It's that travel, see? There's its eye right there in the center. Light through shadows. Communicating with you. See? So it's amazing when we see the eye, the windows of the soul, it's just through a coin. Thinking all this time, asking myself, why can I see beyond? Because what's all levels of communication and confusion, if you don't understand how to use this through your imagination, create a story. Now, when you create a story, it's much understanding how to use this in an information system, especially when you see the eye as a division. That goes direct and redirect. So all that through a coin. So the more you observe, the more you see, the more you understand. Now, in that position, before we get started, I want you guys to truly understand how to look at things. When you're looking and perceiving things, you're looking at the longitude and latitude of everything all at once. And it's all levels of different dimensions of layers, all different levels of communication of space, all different levels of time, all different levels of galaxies and steps in your universe. So when you're looking at things, you're looking in 4 directions all at once. You're looking at 6 directions all at once. It all depends on what you want to look at and how long you want to look at it. But everything goes back to 0. So it doesn't override you already in the sim. Existing, evolving, expanding yourself through creating, not through creation. So what we're going through right now is back in time of what you already done through creation. That's how you see everything in volume through polarity. And when you spin really fast, you come into longitude and latitude. It slows down, but it goes faster in space and time. And when it slows down, you can start to see it in structure of space and time in that position. But you can't stop things. You can only slow it down. It's that position. You can move it up. You can move it down. You can move it this way. You can move it this way. You can do this way. You can do this way, 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 this way. You can do whatever you want. But when you're looking at everything in seconds, you're looking at the longitude. Seconds, minutes, hours. Seconds, minutes, hours. So you're looking at the seconds, minutes, and hours in frame in set position. Okay? Seconds, minutes, and hours. Through longitude and latitude. Through coordinates. Through codification. Through streaming. Through mapping. Through mind of travel. Okay? And traffic. Traffic is a high information system of traffic. Directing ground centers puts all communication system how you see that position. Knowing how to see everything in volume through mass. In one setting, of one operation, of one tractions, of one location. One location, seeing a mass of everything through perception. Now understanding that is through direct and redirect. Okay? All right, so this is how it sets up in line screens, adaptation of surface and travel. Okay, so I just want you to understand, for you guys to understand how to see things in space and time through the sim, you have to understand how to see everything. All levels all at once, right? Through circulation and rotation. Okay, indication this way, indication this way. Indication this way, indication this way. Now, it all depends, right? So that's line communication setting. Longitude. Latitude, longitude, latitude. There's your box frame. There's your box frame. Okay, so you're reading on right, okay, over left. You see where we're going with this? Then you shift the anomalies and change the communication setting of travel. There's your Merkaba. Set position of 4 sequence, 4 panels, 4 operation line communication setting. To your tesseract, to your tetrahedron. Then you set the grounds of sequence in set position with its operation set tractions. Then you get in position location settings of 0 into 1, 2, 3 back to 0 in set position. So it travels in that position to its files and its data to its highways and communication. Ground centers, height sequence, panels, operation lines, center operation another platform into another platform communication setting and going forward and find lines of set directions. Directing ground centers, highline sequence over cross locations in position location of grounds, powers, and atmospheres. Okay, then you change the position location and setting off through traction. Once you come into that position locations, you come into your primers, 3 centers, and set position lines of travel. Then you come into position lines of 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 communication setting and calculations. Right, and then you cross the time frames. You have to time edit the screen adaptations of flux. Okay, puts all communications inside structure of design line in position to its mapping system and traction. Okay, they're going to modify directing ground centers highline sequence in a 45 angle communication. Directing ground centers highline signals. Now this is just grounds, powers, and atmospheres, and how you look at things all at once in all direction. All right. All right. Circulation, rotation is the longitude line centers. Okay, and then you got position lines of width, streaming, and coordinates of communication system all through tractions. Okay, just it comes into more lines, and then you come to your clocking system, right? And position lines of 1, set lines of 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, right? 5, 5 set locations. So you're constantly having a story direction of time frame that processes communication system all through travel. So when you come into that, you understand the center operation of you and set calculations all through travel. Okay, but that's what you see, informations. You automatically see the grounds, powers, and atmospheres. Now, when you get into more longitude and latitude in seconds, minutes, and hours, but then you get in positions at all levels of light years. Now, the hours comes into light years comes into decades come into locations, centuries come locations setting millenniums. So you can look at something in a millennium, okay, in one volume, in one mass, in one location, to one direction, all directions all at once. So everything you say in that position, you're seeing everything in set lines of communications of E equals mc squared. It's that position. So now you understand right over left, left over right. How you see and perceive through perspective of everything of the sim. Look at that. Look at the mass and volume of that. Okay? And that's one spectrum of one setting of one location, right? And then you got the files into your primer, into your highways, into your modems, into your satellites and your towers, all through settings, all through tractions, all through operation. Now that's a lot to see when you're going beyond. You're not just seeing this, you're seeing beyond. Beyond, not back, not forward, not up, not down, not panels, not position, not traction, not division, empty space. Everything is empty space until you perceive consciousness. So for you to identify that is to observe everything of what it really is in its own space of its own operation as it's looking at you and you're looking at them. To the technologies, to their systems, of their home beacons, of their existings, of their minds and modifications, and that travels. They're coming into their own operation, and that travel communications. You're looking at them, they look at you. There's no difference. Okay? You brought them in through attraction. You become connections in one. You're not part of something, you are something. You are connected to everything. Everything's connected with you. But the one thing you got to get out of is the voicings of communications. That confuses everything to your mind that you see in travels, especially when you're perceiving and in perspective and in position location of operation. But that's how you see all levels of volume and mass, all through traction. Okay, so now we're getting at line centers. Process and communication system is really understand how to see 4 lines of flux. Let's get 4 indications set into 4 arrows. How you see lines in set positions, right? So you're standing there and you're looking in all direction, right? Let's set in sequence here. Pi, 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 pi. Okay? Let's see the indication lines. Let's bring it in a little bit more so you can see in travel. Okay? I just want you to see in positions, all right? How you see things. Of you are just standing here. This is you. This is your face. Looking at everything all at once. You're looking in this direction. You're looking in this direction. You're looking just in 3 directions right here. Just 3 directions right now. Boom. Through seconds, minutes, and hours, right? And then you're looking at the frames of communication. Look at this. Look at the files. All through volume, all through mass, all through E, all mc squared. That's a lot of files to look at, right? So once you get in that position, you see it in a position of a square root. Sets, lines, communication, holographic setting. Whoa, look at that. All right, so that platted division location setting. All those files go inside the line communication system all through travel, all at once in set position of laser tractions and direct and redirect signals in location system all through set position. Okay? So you're always seeing 4 directions in one volume. You're seeing one direction in all volume. So for to understand that, when you get in that positions, after you're finished seeing these things through direct and redirect, it's 1. Direct, redirect is 1. Not 2, not 3, not 4. It's always one volume, a mass of everything. So for you understand that, that's all through pi. That goes back to 0. So everything has to go back to 0, right? So don't get confused in your anomalies because it's already set up in location in your bodies, into your powers, into your atmospheres, and your highways and travel communication. Okay? But that's a lot of files to look at. And one line settings are 4 volume, or 4 line settings in 1 volume. Doesn't matter. You've seen everything. A mass. To and from to pi. So when you're looking at something, here and here, that's the volume you're looking at something right away. Right? And you turn the angle, that's a lot of files. Okay? So what you do is you do this. This comes in the longitude. Right? So that's a lot of files for you to look at things. Right? Latitude, longitude of seconds, minutes, and hours, how you look at set position of time frame. Anything in position and settings at all positions. All right? Look at this interactions. Okay? So, look at that. It stuck to that. See that? Did you see that? Did you see that? It's connecting to the pad. It's in relation to partnership. It wants to travel with the pad with me. Isn't that like, wow, you know? Isn't that incredible? It wants to travel. But I put it down here. You saw it go down here. How did it go there? How did it go there? It vortexed here. Because it doesn't want to be there. It wants to be here. You see how powerful it is to identify things through travel. All right, starting sequence lines of 7 line signals. Process communicates in system all through travel. All right? Okay, so you here, this is you, looking at 3 set lines of communication. That's you, right? Now, what you have to go through is 7 windows in set positions just to get to the intelligence of open frame. It's very complicated, but I'll show you how this all works. So I got 1, 2, 3, set positions of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so that's 7 windows to get to the intel. Observation here, pi over here. This is you looking at the coin. So that's 7 windows, 7 frames, 7 tractions, 7 locations, 7 waters all at once, just to get to the intel. And once you get to the intel, the 7 frames come into one setting, which is one mass file and travel. It grounds powers and atmospheres and travel communications. Okay? So it's really interesting when you look at that in all different angles. Okay? Now all these blocks are pixelation graphs. Processing here, processing here, processing here, processing here. Angles here, angles here, angles there, angles there. Angles here, angles there. Okay? All through files. That's a lot of files to look at. Look at that. All through line communication setting the grounds of surface and travel. Okay, and then we change the angles of point communication system and calculations. Look at all the pyramids. Look at all the pyramids. 7 pyramids, guys. That's a lot of files. Then you come into the hieroglyphics. Ground centers of 3, ground centers of 4, ground centers of 5, and ground centers of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in set sequence. That process indicates in system all through tractions. Direct lines of grounds, powers, atmospheres, and line communication system, all things that calculations. All right? And then we basically, I know it gets complicated, but you have to understand how this all works in set travel. All those files, all through that coin, in position locations, in 7 line settings of plasmazine force walls. Now the force walls, now once you get in positions, before you connect with the intelligence, you come into the polarity. This is the polarity. You got to get bypass the polarity to get into the central setting of its Earth rotation. Okay, so once you get past the 7 plasmazine walls, then you go into the polarities, and now you connect with the intel of its Earth. There it is in travel. Booyah. Okay? So, a lot of work to do in position, how you see in provision. Isn't that wild? Look at that. Isn't that incredible? Doesn't that blow your mind away? Just to connect with intelligence? That's a lot of files to go through. So it has 7 dimensions of time, 7 waters of time, right? 7 grounds of time, 7 fires. So it has its 5 elements, guys, and times of 2. Okay? So understanding that position locations. So that process communicates the setting and line centers of 7, 7, 7, and 3. Ground centers of surface and travel. Okay? And then that position lines of 6, 6, 6, 1. 1 is sequence over lines, over cross lines of 7, direct lines of 7 over 3, set position lines of 2, back in 0, position lines of 1, and travel. Holographic setting, which is a holographic communications to an energetic dome. All right, so process position of this polarity, central lines is communication sending, the high lines is charging, line direct signals of its panels that change the files of communication system, all through travel, all through direct location system in travel communications. Very, very powerful stuff, right? And that's just one volume and set positions to 1 tractions of 1 coin to its intelligence. Doesn't that blow your mind? It's like it creates its own spinnacle line centers of travel, direct signal location of grounds. So oscillation winds, patterns line recording time centers, locates the setting, and 45 line angles at screen adaptation. Okay? Just to connect with the coin. Just to connect with the coin through observation of scanning, guys. Okay? Now, it's really easy, but you have to understand how to communicate to the sim now. All right, so once we understand the files, each file indicates its astral projections, how we see the 3 walls of communications. Setting lines of 1, process ground centers of power generation lines of 2. Okay, that's 1 platform. Directing ground centers, high sequence lines of files, data, input, output, and outline centers to audio lines of setting. Platforms in communication system, all through convergence of its walls of sequence location. Okay, and then you have to understand how to modify it through its grounds lines of surface and travel. Okay, and then you understand the other panels of operation setting and sequence. Okay, so it's really interesting when you see it all formation system to Skynet. Okay. All through setting, all through tractions. Okay, so once we have that set up, then we get positions of high centers into the Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron. That's like calculations. Okay, so that overrides the pi, correlates the settings of time measure, sets course setting, line condition setting, and direct signals to grounds of surface and location system, all through platforms and crop circles and travel. Directing ground centers, high lines of settings, its operation system. All through flux, all through set calculation. Okay? Just to connect with the coin that's going through 7 plasmazine walls. And set positions. Okay? That's just 1. But I showed you exactly one of it. See, it doesn't stick now. It wasn't sticking before. It wants to stick, you know? It's crazy. It sticks or it doesn't stick. It depends, right? It doesn't want to stick. See? See what I just did there? It sticks now. So it depends what it wants. It has its own mind, collaboration system attraction. But I just showed you how I put it there and a vortex here by itself. It vortex by itself. So it needs to know exactly how to go from here to here. It's going through 7-dimensional walls of plasmazine 4 settings. The processing communications from here to here to here to here through pi. Okay? It's a lot of files that travel. All through set position to its operation. Okay? That was fun. All right, so as we go through the line centers in that communication system, it gets much easier how to start to see everything through pi, right? So let's get a coordinate line centers, phase record and time frame. Process indicates lines of 4. Let's break you in 4. Let's break you in 6, 8, and set in position of 12 set lines of travel, and direct lines of communication system, and set travel. Okay, face recognition, all right? So think of this as scanning, direct and redirect, all right? As it's going this way, and as it's going this way, and set travel, okay? And then you change the angles and set positions, right? So remember, you're not just looking here, okay? You're not just looking here. You're looking here. You're looking here. Okay? You're looking here and you're looking here all at once. All at once. So it doesn't matter how you see it in mass, but you're always going to see it in volume. Volume is basically the conditions of the velocity, the vacuum, and understanding how to see it through acceleration of Mach, right? And then you start to see it in files. So setting lines and settings, pixelation graphs, platforms over set travel. Okay? And you got direct location system, outside attractions. All right, and then you basically change information lines and grounds, different schematics over screen, right? Then we go to the ground lines of sequence. You're always working in positions of 4 pyramids, everything you look at all at once. In platforms, in set travels. There's the dimensional door open on both sides. And then you just see the dimensional door and all sides and center of operation, all at once, all in position, all in volume, all in mass. There's the door. Oh, disappeared. Gotta do it again. Frequencies are too high. There's the door. Okay? Now, once you see the door, this has come into mass. It comes into seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? There's the door, right? And here's the other side of the door. Okay? So it all depends how long you want to spend looking at observation of everything, right? And then you have to stand your flights and set travel. Okay? Sets lines, communication, sending over lines of calculations. So we had direct line centers, process communication lines and high centers of communication system, all through traction, all through locations, all through set positions, all through operation, right? Okay, so there's always ways of looking at this in set positions all at once. Okay, so it's very powerful, knowing exactly what you're doing through its equation. Okay, and how you can basically do this. This is really interesting stuff. You guys will pick this up right away. What does this remind you of? It's a movie. The Matrix. You guys in set positions? And Neil's looking that way. He's looking, right? See? It's amazing what you can do, guys, when you just come into your minds of imagination and setting. Okay? It's absolutely incredible. So I just like adding frames because you have to identify the frames first, but first you have to understand how to communicate through its perception and how you perceive everything of consciousness. So the more you start to identify these things, the more you understand how to look at this from observation to scanning. Okay, but it's from here to here. It's how to go from here to here, back to here, which is 0. So after you go back to 0, everything you've done cancels out. It cancels out. It deletes and erases. Right? And then you go back to the next set. So as you're connecting, you're looking here, it's that position, right? But you're going from here to here. And then you're going back to here, right? And then you go into the center. And then you come into expansion. That's all this is, nothing else, right? But you have to understand why the body needs to go through its projection first, through its astral travels. So when you're looking here, you're looking at this all at once. There's the 4 pyramids, okay? Looking here in this direction all at once, the ceiling. You're looking at the panels and the grounds all at once when you look at everything, all at once. That's how you see things in all direction. Okay, all direction is basically understanding how to create the Fibonacci in one directions, which is already spinning, right? And then become in position location of the yang, which is the opposite of everything. Yin and yang, yang and yang. So you go in the same directions all at once in a continuous force, right? Creates the volume, creates the mass, and set travel. Okay, creates its portal, then it creates its security defense lines of communications of mass and volume. There's the portal of communication, all through settings, all through traction. Okay, basically I understand how to do that. Okay, So if we get a better understanding of how this all works, then you understand how to get position locations and direct and redirect, right? Direct, redirect. So you got two arrows of indication, right? Direct, redirect, right? So you have to stand not from this, but from that. But to get to there, you have to stand here. You have to stand here. And that's where you go into 0, 1 equals 0, 2 equals 0, 3 equals 0, 4, back to 0. Okay, and then you get in positions. Now, when it gets tricky, you can override the zeros, and it goes 0, 0, 0, 0.1 equals lines 0, 0, 0, triangulation box, flux over screen, which is a higher frequency now, into set position. There's your code, there's your binary, there's your algorithm. Okay, it said travel. There's your barcode. When it just flicked it and switch. So we take the zeros lines, split lines and arms at 3 centers of travel, past, present, and future. Directing ground centers adds graphing communication system of your Schumann resonance on megahertz, megawatts in set position. Process indication setting comes into alpha, beta, theta of communication. Right? Setting ground centers calculation lines comes into the waves. Okay? Into all communication system interactions. Okay? Off here is your mapping system and set interactions. Okay? What you've accomplished is everything inside. So once you go past the 7 plasmazine walls, then you start to see what you created through pixelation. It's all pixels. And then you understand how to put this all together and turn it into a simulation, which is a hologram. But you understand how to start in set position, how you perceive things, the consciousness, right? Right? Okay. So pixelation, hologram, more solid, right? Solid matter, right? Then you can understand how to go into positions: carbon, silicone, antimantle, anticaryon, helter-skelter. Helter-skelter is just sketching your modification grounds into minor alteration setting of space and time in high positions. You can outline your signals into black, inset lines of travel, bring it in set position, of course, directing lines in your Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron. Okay? Through operation. Different angles, different point graphs. So that's merging its own setting. It's morphing into its own system. So it's just a plasma until it morphs in its own system of attractions. Coloration lines, rainbow screens, directing ground centers of service. Process here, process here, process here, process here. So it's morphing in its own setting. All right? Once it morphs, it knows exactly what it is in travel. See? Boom. Oh, not ready to see it. There it is. Boom. There's a top rotation vessel. Now changing again. There it is again. Another different setting. Now it's going to go with different color, different shape, different modification, different grounds, different surface. Oh, look at that. Now it's morphing into volume, mass, and calculations. Look at that. Boom. Right? Wow. So that's what your body's constantly doing now in empty space. It's just changing its system to location system all through setting, all through operation. Everything I'm doing is different times of change. See? Everything I'm doing. So it's like putting salt or sand on top of a template, and you have a position of a bar. You smack it, right? And everything around, okay, vibrates and changes the platform, right? Changes the colorations of the platform, okay? Changes the colorations of the platform. Changes the colorations of the platform. And you're not doing anything. You're just banging the bar on top of the table, and you're seeing a geometric change its own shape of its own space, of its own time in its clocking system and track communications. Constant change information, right? That's what your body does. It morphs everything in set lines, all communicating system of attractions. And there it is in set position. Okay? And now you're seeing the map. Now you're seeing the simulation. Now you're seeing the intelligence. So when you see the intelligence, you start to see the face come in. All right? See the eyes, nose, mouth. See the intelligence? Now you're communicating because you went through the 7 plasmazine walls to get to its intelligence, to its map. Every intelligence has its map, but you have to truly understand how to see an information system. And what you sees you, it recognizes you in space and time, of who you are in present time, not who you are in backup time in set positions. There's the eyes, there's the nose, there's the face. Okay? Very powerful stuff when you see it in all different angles in set travel. Okay? From above, looking below, right? Through your own Google and set traction. Okay? So you have to bring things in to see, right? You have to observe to scan. Observe to scan. But understand this, to go back to that, to 0. And everything you've done erases out and goes to the next frequency of 01 to 02 to 03 is that position. All through modification lines of travel. All right? I tried to get in this positions first in traction. Okay? And this in set positions. How to see things. How to identify, it's, 7 dimensions, 7 space. Everything through intelligence has a different sail, has a different dimensional sail. We got into that, right? Dimensional sail, solar sail, right? Time centers of 1, process lines of 2 over attractions, 3 centers of platforms, and a door set position. There's the door. Okay, now you're here. Okay, this is you looking at 3 different angles of 3 centers. Just 3 centers alone. 3 different directions in set position. Okay, and the doors are coming to you in file. Okay, you're going through the 7 doors and you go inside its set position of its own setting, of its own simulation. Okay. Now, once you go there, you automatically go in set position to its intelligence. So it gives you a tour. And when it gives you a tour, here's its face in set operation inside tractions. That's the intelligence, right? So now you're from here to there. Now the intelligence is taking you everywhere in set position as locations. Okay? So this is the next level for the team to understand, but you have to go through the 7 plasma walls. And a plasmazine force is set position to get to its intelligence. Okay? That's 7 angles is set position lines of space and time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Set line communication lines of setting. That overcrosses lines angles. Then you in that position lines of high centers, and then you come into position location to its holographic city of set design that the intelligence is showing you. As it's showing you, it's showing its mass, its correlations, its holographic city in set position. Okay? So it's amazing when you start to recognize that. Now you're inside the intelligence with its city. It's showing you where it lives and what it's doing in its seconds, minutes, and hours. Okay? So you're seeing everything just by identifying, not by looking, by seeing everything all at once. All through longitude, all through latitude in set positions. Okay? It's holographic system. It's holographic city. It's galaxies. It's universe. It's giving you a tour. All right? And all position, location, attraction. Okay? All setting, all operation. So you see 4 things all at once. All inside and outside position. Okay? Outside and inside, right? So that's outside. And this is inside. There's the tree. Okay? So once you see the hologram, everything starts making sense in its system. Right? All right. Powerful, isn't it? When you start understanding how to communicate through perspective and how you see everything in mass and volume. Okay, so timeline, center, height, position, location, system. Let's square root course centers and lines of D over lines of E. Process line course centers of T. Calculate and modify. And line screen adaptation lines and height settings. So E over lines of T, T over lines of D. That communicates in height centers. Calculate and modify. Directing ground centers, line course centers. Directing communicates height lines and service. Process lines of indication system. Particle line acceleration lines of time frame. Process lines of zero line rotation cycles. high generation screen lines at high core centers, E lines of formation lines at D, D communication lines at T, calculate and modify direct line core centers, direct internet communication system of attractions. Okay, so line connection setting, Einstein formations, Dolores lines, high core centers, Tesla line core center line position location measure and scale. Process lines of 3 indication lines of flux over screen adaptation setting and travel. Have fun. All right, so Einstein lines, Tesla line communication setting, Dolores core centers, line communication setting and travel. 3 centers lines of 4, 4 communication lines, center operation lines sequence, ground centers lines of 0, rotation surface and travel. Okay? All right. So they're right here now, talking to you in supposition. Okay? Have fun. So you got 20 minutes on frame. That's 20,000 hours. And position lines of 2 light years away in traction. Operation line sequence, countdown. 19, 1999. Clock is on dial. Set lines of sequence. Have fun. All right? It's amazing when you get that position lines of settings. Einstein, Dolores Cannon, Tesla. And set lines of 4 sequence. Core centers, Hawkins and screen. 4 travels. All right? Have fun in sequence. Time is on dial. All right. Now, I'm just going to get a position lines of balance here so you get a true understanding how this all works in line screen. All right, so I'm going to set positions. Okay. Now, I'm just going to outline it and inline its system, what it is, instructions, right? And I'm going to do this, this inside. So what I'm doing, I'm just doing an observation of what it looks like, the coin, right? That's how I see it. But now I'm seeing the width, 3 centers and 3 travel. Okay, and then we come into this, and then we come into this. Okay, there's the coin. Pretty simple, right? I see it, right? But if I change the time frame, you can actually see the intelligence inside the coin itself. See? That's general, that's the intelligence. Having ongoing conversation. See what you can do with your imagination? And you can really start to see information. Right? And now I can see it in the center. Look, you see the intelligence, see? See? You see it? You see it? See how it changed? You see how it changed? Look. You see how it changed? You see it, right? You see the 2 intelligence? I'm inside the coin, talking to the coin itself. Look, people. Booyah. All right. Now we understand that correlation setting, how that works in tractions. Very powerful stuff in set positions. But you really have to calculate and modify how you come in that positions to its intelligence and understand how to see it through its own tour, have its own set location to its settings, all through tractions. Okay? All right. Remember, everything I'm showing you guys already know in travel. Okay? There's nothing that you don't know. It's just knowing how to identify everything in set position. So it's kind of looking like in a 4-screen line center in a box frame. Okay, 2 graphs. Box frame, 2 graphs, right? 3 graph screens. Stay with me here, right? Arrows of indication. Okay? Process line XT1001. XT1000 docks its systems in launch pad over 6, over frame, over directions, and alpha tone, and direct settings and setting. Okay, now we change the formation lines. Comes in set position. Change direct signals of course lines to calculate the line XT1000. We got a mothership on cross line. And set position lines of settings. All right? Now, motherships comes in, correlates the setting of time, center of operation sequence. Sets calculation of grounds, 3 centers, 4 set travels into a pyramid. Directing ground centers in 1 center, 1 operation sequence line communications. Now, this platform is set lines at 45 angles, split lines of anomaly. Very powerful stuff, right? So we have a monitoring system and travel. Okay? And then we have a monitoring system, line condition setting, voice line, position lines of travel of delta and theta. And set travel communications. Operation line sequence, operation line service, and travel communications. All directions. Okay? Sound tones, echo line 1, echo line 2. Process 2 centers, 3 centers line communication lines of travel. Directing ground center as the server locates the system, all through calculate, modify, and line condition mapping sequence. Process indications, now we bring in the planets. 3 centers of travel communications. Right? And then we outline the course, change time frame, and set position. All through setting. Okay? Inside attractions, road graph, screen adaptations. Okay? Now, everything I'm doing, I'm constantly changing the schematics of its drawing. And how I do it is how I formulate it through its set position. Right? And you keep basically knowing exactly what you want to do. You can do anything you want, right? You truly understand what you're seeing as you see everything of its intelligence, seeing everything up close. Seeing everything up close now, not so observation. All right, so now you're intent. And once you get intent, you come into influence of manipulation. It's solar system. Okay? All right, so add lines, high screen adaptation is setting, solar graph, communication system, all through travel. Whoa, look at that, eh? Change the angles, change the platforms to set travel. Okay? Change the platforms to set lines of communication, lines of travel. Now, inside lines, center operation line sequence. Here's communication lines. Here's Saturn and communication. There's Saturn. Okay? So the more you understand the sim, the more you understand how it's calculated and modified, how you really see things in perception. Everything you look at is nothing but a hologram. But you understand the structure, how it's created, these creations are created. And how you balance these things out in platforms that set travel. Okay? And how you see yourself inside itself, looking at everything you're perceiving through consciousness, controlling everything around you in your sim. In your sim. Having fun with that. And you do that through the inner child. All right? Just the story itself creates everything through its anomaly. All right? Creates everything through its anomaly. Okay? And then I can change it again. See? Look at this. Okay? And then I'm adding the pyramids again. Crossing angles. Flux over screen. Directing ground centers calculations. Right? So the more you see up close, the more you identify the sim. The more you see afar, the more you don't identify anything. You can't see from here. To understand here is to understand pi. From here is back from here is 0. So you're constantly going in that position location to its setting from 0, 1 to 0, 12 back to 0. 0 to 12 equals lines of 24. 24 back to 12 back to 0. It's that position. Okay? Now once you color it in, it gets a lot more fun. Then you really see the pixelation of its hologram that you created in frames of communication. Okay? So I'm just showing you the frames now. Okay? Now for you to identify these things, you have to send the coloration. Your light metaphors puts every location setting in trashes. All right, let's bring in some purple. Okay. So it's like a chessboard, and you just color it in. Right? You're seeing the pixelation of its worlds, of its own universe, of its own galaxies, of its set position. Its set directions. Okay? Okay, there's a lot of things you can identify too. It's pretty amazing stuff when you come into that. Now, this is how we might alterate the setting of its matrix. Matrix has its own cubicle setting, a screen adaptation of setting through a mystical cortex into the sim cortex, into the codex in codification setting. Code flux, screen adaptations, attractions. Okay? Look at that. Boom. Right? And I can just keep going. Right? Let's colorate the ceiling lines of orange. So what you're doing is just changing the frequencies of frames now of everything that you see in the seconds, minutes, and hours in longitude and latitude. Right? So I'm just going to outline setting, cross location of systems. Perspective is everything, guys. Okay? How you see that is how you perceive consciousness. But you also have to identify what you're seeing through observation of its own system, of its own travel. But a way to see these things is all through inside travel communications, right? You start to understand living the existence of you of forever existing, okay? Creating those platforms of travel. Adding frames, taking out frames, directing frames, correlations of frames, outline frames, inline frames, audio frames, outline syncs, location setting, know exactly how to adapt to that to computer operation, because that's all the Intel does all day is just draws pictures in its minds. And when it draws its pictures in its minds, it identifies its engineering skill sets and what it does through travel. Okay, so it starts to see everything come clear to its system in calculation. Okay, wild, isn't it? All inside the simulation. Okay? I mean, I can keep going and on, but I'm just saying it's very powerful how you see it in all different levels, you know? But I'm just showing, and you can also see it on a 45 angle. It's amazing how you put this all together, because it is Doctor Strange when you get into coloration. Coloration is a lot more fun now than just seeing it in black and white. So to understand that is to understand this up close and travel. Okay, and then you start to see the windows in set position. Booyah. The window frames. Okay, and you see the correlation lines of doors and track communications. There's the handle, there's the door. Okay, pretty powerful stuff, right? And there is the set position location to its system, something setting. Okay? Pretty amazing when you see these things. There's a map. There's the map, right? Now let's colorate the setting in operation sequence. Change coloration lines of setting positions. Okay, we're gonna add green here. All right, so we're gonna correlate communication earth line. It's a constant continuous of Tango Tango Foxtrot. Okay, so now you're seeing it come into its earth, right? Now we're just gonna add blue lines, 7 lines of sequence over screen. Copy that. Okay, and travel communications, directions. So you see the formation of its earth now, right? All right, so we got green lines, we got blue, we got white course centers. So now we come into the brown line, which is the course center communication lines, position attractions, direct signals. So we go ground center lines of 1, over cross lines of 2, process lines of 3, set lines and settings, and sequence lines communication. Okay, that's cross line signals. Then we have to get enforced communications. Blackout lines, side lines of travel, direct signal location of grounds. There's the earth. All right, then we outline the signals, rotation lines, and communication. Directing grounds, and set lines of sequence. All right? Okay. And then we outline it again, right? Because we're changing the force field lines of grounds. Set sequence, sets panels, set screens, and location. Okay? So you work with that. There's the set position lines of travel. Okay. Sets communication system, all through set positions, operation lines, and travel communications. Intelligence. See the eyes? Always intelligence in everything you get in positions of. Always on standby. So, say hello to the Palladians. Right? Let's get markers, screens, adaptations of flux over settings, process indications, Tango Tango. Set positions, set track communications. There's the eyes coming in travel. Okay. Setting alpha line, centers line, position and metric meters and scale. Process communication lines, height travels, and set positions, set calculation. Right? All right, let's get known line screens, inline course centers, and monthly rotation center and travel, direct and crowd communication. Bring that position locations. All right. Facades over sequence lines. Let's calculate and modify line position lines of travel, position location, centers, and communications and settings into position location. Oh yeah. Face recognition. Okay? Different set position lines of travel. Right? But it's amazing how you see intelligence in all different formations setting the grounds. See? All in position of map and sequence, all through directions. See? You can't see it from here, right? You can't see the intelligence until you go past everything into travel, in directions, in locations, and through its settings. Say hello to its intelligence. Right? So it's looking at you, and you're here in set positions. This is you. Traveling. Hey, what's up? How you doing? See, it's looking at you. Right? Change its face, too. All right, now it's coming into bold. Now it wants to recognize what you're doing. It wants to see who you are in set position. See? It's coming into bold now. See? It's coming into its own volume by itself. All right, it's amazing. And we just changed course centers of time frame. Now it's looking down at you in set position. On the other angle is travel. Amazing how it goes from one angle to another angle. I haven't changed anything. It does it itself. So it modifies its system location and centers of travel. Indirect signal lines of grounds. The grounds. There's the face of recognition. Okay? Woo! Isn't that amazing? Isn't that wild? Isn't that incredible? There's the grounds. Right? See what you can do with your imagination, people? All right, and it looks down at you in line conditions of laser. Right? It sees you. You're putting your fields up because you don't know what's going on. You say, okay, I'll put my fields up, man. But it's amazing how you see things in track communications. Right? I don't have to set up the grounds and powers because the simulation's already done. The equation is math, right? So I'm just showing you communications. Right, so it's position, location, and settings, all through subtractions. Right? All right, so I get positions and settings, and I go from here. Okay? And then I get in position lines of travel. But I'm just showing you exactly how this all works. You can't see it from here until you bring it in. Okay? Until you bring, oh, look at that. We got another face. Another face is coming in. What is going on here? We got one face here, another face is coming in.
Oh my God, what's happening here?
All right, so setting signals, location, setting, and travel, directing ground centers, line, positional location, and setting off the calculation system. Change time frame, track location lines, and height position. All through setting, all through operations. So it's amazing what you can do in your mind's adaptation. Okay? Oh, yeah. Isn't that wild? Having fun, but you can't see it from here. You can't see it from here until you go here, back to 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 here, right? You can't see it from here. You have to bring it in to see it, to understand how to identify it and set position to its calculation, right? What's going on in its real time in set tractions, all through its intelligence. All right, so now you understand why it's so important not just to be observant. You can't see anything here until you bring it in and set position locations. Then you understand what's going on its level, on its intelligence, on its frame, and its position to its operation that's running its own system and set calculation of its own facade. Hooah! All through the simulation. Okay, all through traction. All right? All right. Okay? Different levels of intelligence coming in set positions all through operation. Look at this in tractions. What is going on here? See? Galaxy! Now let's bring in the solar system. Alright? Bring in the planets. Alright? And setting line communications high centers. Okay, shift lines anomaly. There we go, attraction. Boom. That my equation. Your solar system. All through the galaxies in set position. Okay? Let's look at a different angle. All right. Your space is always inside lines, but you have to understand how to come inside position to its systems. And how to see everything location to its space itself. And I can change the formation lines and grounds. Okay. You can add orbs. Let's add some orbs. Okay. It's happening right now. All right, so let's bring some timeline sequence and screen adaptation. Okay, and let's get in graph lines. Inline screen adaptation. Process 1, process 2, process 3, process 4, process 5 over 6. A direct line link. Look at this in travel. This is wild. Look at this. Wow. And look at this. Set positions. Check this out. Pixelation grounds, guys. Pixelation grounds. Okay? And you are in Cloak and Dagger. This is you in Cloak and Dagger on the pixelation. Okay? Okay. Looking at the moon. There's the moon. And the position, the sun is in front. Sun's in front. Moon's in back. Okay? Alright, Alright. Then we come into this, and then we come into this, and set directions. See? Everything is a story, guys. Look at this in settings. This is going to blow your mind. Check this out. Holographic city. See the eyes? See intelligence? Whoa. Hello. Oh, intelligence over here. One there, one there, one there. 3 intelligence. One looking this way, one looking this way, one looking that way. Oh, we got another one here this way. Oh, we got another one coming in this way. Oh, we got 2 eyes in this way. When you come into holographic cities, you start to see everything through face facades. It sets lines of communication system with attraction. See? Everything's intelligence. Everything is intelligence. See? Everything's intelligence. Okay? But seeing the holographic city, guys, I don't think it gets any more powerful than that. Look at that. It's holographic city. Isn't that wild? All through pixelation, all through hologram. Say hello. So I'm trying to get you guys to identify these things. It's how you go through the system and locations. All through charges of location. Okay? That looks like a dragon. All right, let's bring in the flyer. Start with that setting, right? And let's bring in some yellow and gold. And set directions. Breathing fire. There's the dragon. Let's bring in the eyes in sequence. And let's bring in some orange. Gotta have orange. Fire breathing dragon. Change the angle. Look at this. Okay. Bringing everything up close, guys. See? Look at that. Isn't that wild? That's how you start to see things in the sim. All through coloration. All through space, all through time. Okay? Because it's all created from you inside. All right? Your galaxies, your universe. See? All through that. There's your galaxy, there's your universe. Okay? Now, if you look right here, blue and blue, you see the actual face. You see the face right there. Okay? And then you see the holographic city right there. Isn't that wild? See? 2 eyes. It's intelligence, right? So that's when you start identifying, when you start to recognize what's going on in set positions. You see it in all different angles and situations. Off the setting, off the operation. Okay? But you can't see it from here, can you? Now you understand why it's so important how you perceive things and how you come into that from perspective. You can't see anything from here. You've got to come in close to see everything in tractions. Okay? But it's knowing how to get there. Right? Through the 7 plasmazing walls. That's where it comes into 777. Okay? So you have to go through 7 grounds, 7 waters, 7 sequence, 7 panels, 7 operations, 7 clockings, 7 foundations. All right, so it's not in that positions until you understand the tractions through perception itself. But I'm just showing you how you guys have to stop seeing this. It's to start to see everything from inside its simulation of its setting. What's going on in real time, or anything with its coin. Okay? Very powerful, guys. Very powerful. And then you see it move over. It was here, now it's moved here. Everything moves itself back to where it's supposed to be. Not where it's supposed to be, back to where it's supposed to be, which is back to 0, right? See? It takes over 2 spaces and it wants to be here because that's where it's left. It doesn't want to be here because I know I'm going to draw something next, because that overrides the system in setting lines of tractions. So that's 0, 0, 2, 0, 3, back to 0. Nothing there. New frame, new traction, new locations. Hooah! Its own consciousness, guys. Its own consciousness. I don't need to identify its consciousness. It knows its own consciousness at position. And look, it goes back in its design. It doesn't go back at the top because it knows I'm going to be doing something next, because it doesn't want to override everything that we already experienced in set position all levels. For you to identify these things, it's much easier to see that in tractions. All through setting, all through operation system. All right, 106, 107 lines, take out line course centers, back in tractions, back location lines, clock line centers, in line course center, communicates and setting, forward travels and direct lines, ground communications back to 0. All right, hope you guys had fun connecting with all line course centers with Dolores, Einstein, Tesla, and Hawkins. Okay, see? Goes back to its system. So I have 3 openings here, right? So just to try to imagine that when you take a photo of yourself in any way and form, you're going to see it move. So as soon as you take a picture, you're here, right? You take a picture. Now this is a window frame. This is a box frame. All right, so when you take a picture, it's going to shift here, and it's going to shift here in set position. Right, so you're going to see it shift. Okay, it might lock its system and travel. Okay, or it might go back in center. Or it might be over here, or it might be in the window. How you see some positions, right? So what you guys are coming into now is a higher lines of panel. And that communicates into its window frames where everything comes out of your system in traction. Everything comes out of frame, guys. Everything comes out of frame now, okay? In set traction, okay? In set position. Okay, so everything comes out of box frame now in triangulation. Okay, and set travel. All through your pyramid, see? Your pyramid in set traction. There's your pyramid, right? There's your grounds, powers, atmospheres, highways, modems, Wi-Fi, satellites, and towers. Okay, now you can see it on all different angles. Is that communication? Right? And then basically you can change the formation lines of grounds again. There's your pyramid in center operation. All right, and then you can travel through it. Now when you travel through it, you just come into just the existing itself in set position. All right, it's very powerful. And then you come into set communications and settings. And then you come in position location to a system, all through traction. Okay, so there's a lot of things you can do, but you have to identify observation to scanning at once, right? That's how you see everything in set positions. Crossing here, setting here, and travel communications, right? Pi, 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 pi. Okay, grounds, panels, ceiling. Okay, And you can change it again. Let's add the equations and settings and travel. And set position to its locations. Add in files. Okay. It's adding stairs. Set communication. Right. So there's so many things you can do inside and outside communication. Start to see inside and outside now. Automation system, author travels, of triangulation. Intelligence. See? Say hello to the Glaciarians. Glaciarians are very cool. See, they're constantly changing their form until they recognize you and travel. See, it's constantly changing the system. Right? It formulates in different lines. So it's protecting itself from you because it does understand you and frequency. And it's going through its box frame, its set position. And it changes time centers of scale. Okay? It's in the green. Right? So it constantly goes to its shape until it finds a shape that it likes in set position. Right? Set position locations and settings. Author traction. Okay. So if you look really close and you see it, you can actually see the volume all through this. Look at that. Look at the mass and volume of all that. Isn't that amazing? When you bring it in, look at this. Check this out. See the pyramid? Green and green, right? Light green, dark green. And then you bring it in. Your simulation's already set up, guys. You're just identifying it now. It's space itself. Okay? And again, you're here in set position to its locations. You're here. I got here. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. Face recognition. All right, so it travels over here. So wherever you travel, it travels to you. Okay, so it's over there, now it's over there. See? You see it there, but it's coming into here. So you see it in two different places now. There's the face coming in. So you travel from here to here, right? So it doesn't matter where you travel. It finds a way to find you in set positions. Okay? See, it's turning its face. It's looking this way now. So it's got in there occasional lines of set position lines of travel. It's looking in this direction. It's looking at this direction. And it's looking in this direction, locations all at once. Pretty wild, eh? And look what you created in simulation. You bring it in close, you see the face of recognition. There's the face. There's the face. There's the intelligence. There's the conscious of its own awareness of space and time that governs everything in its own operation system, that runs its own system. Oh yeah. Okay? You see the face coming in. Okay? But you can't see it from here. You have to see it from here. And you have to see it from here. And you have to see it from here. And that's how you come in to all levels of its intelligence and its attraction. Okay? That's what you guys have to get into. Right? There's the intelligence. See the eyes? Say hello. Gorithians. Gorithians. Right? So these are shadowline grifters. Everything has a name. Understand the intelligence and understand the information system all through attractions. Okay? I have to change the angle. It's in lines of different lines of intelligence, information lines of grounds. Okay, bring it in positions. You start to see the crystalline and subposition lines of travel. Intelligence there again. Change the angles, change the graphs, change the communication system, and traction. Now, if you look really close, you can see illumination coming in. You can see the figures coming in. See? See the space in between? Figures are coming in. See? See the faces? Oh my gosh, look at that. That looks like there's 2 people. Right? See, now there's 3. Oh, now there's no 4. Oh, now there's 6. Oh, now there's 8. Now there's 12. 12 individual locations all through light. All coming in. But you can't see it from here. Until you understand observation to scanning. Okay? Now you know what you have to get in positions of. You can't see anything from here until you identify everything that's going on in real time. All at once. And that's how you start to see everything in set positions in travel. Through its space recognition. Okay? Everything has its own face, guys, to space and time. All through attractions. All through locations. You see it. It's face. You see the face. You see the face, people. Okay, so there you go. Wow, then. Alright, and you can change formation settings of you and travel. Hey, I'm floating in space. Okay. Let's bring some XT1000s in. So, that's what I'm saying. It's just having fun, you know? You just have fun. That's all you do, right? But now you're seeing everything from inside. Inside people. Not outside. Can't see anything from that. Now you have to understand what you're coming into in suppositions. You can't even see until you bring it in. Can't even see until you bring it in. You can't see until you bring everything in. Okay? So there you go. Hope you guys had fun on that setting position locations. Hey, we're at 1313 interactions. Adios.